Blake, do you know the actual calculated chances of getting struck by lightning?
High enough that you should stay indoors and not watch storms.
Welcome to the Church Gear Podcast, where we pull the tech out of the booth and onto the stage to share the most outlandish stories and hidden wisdom from the tech trenches. And now, here are your hosts.
I'm your host, Blake Hodges, a man who just bought a lottery ticket so I can buy church gear. And I'm here with my boss who already owns church gear, so he doesn't need to win the lottery, Toby Walters.
So if you win the lottery, your first move is buy church gear.
It's to buy 50% because I don't want to price gear, and you're the only one that knows how to do that. So if I buy church gear from you, I'm screwed.
So if I sell 50% of church gear to you, then I have to be in business with you?
Yes.
Maybe I need to start playing the lottery to then have more lottery. What's the winning ticket?
The winning ticket was, if you cash it out immediately, $500 million.
Dang it.
Yeah, so I was just going to buy half a church gear for like $10 million.
I was thinking if it was like $30,000, I'm like, I could figure out a way to like save up $35,000 and then just have more money. But $500 million, I don't think I can save up that much.
Well, and it's also America. You can't be forced to sell.
So I think it's literally, I don't know if you say literally or literally, but a better chance of getting struck by lightning than it is to win the lottery.
Well, and that was accidental. How funny. You're right.
I know. So I was thinking of just precarious moments, because the last podcast I did that was not a church gear podcast.
You cheated on me?
I did.
How dare you?
With the church collective.
Well, that's okay then.
So we also recorded in the church gear podcast studios. But during that, we started to hear...
cheated with me in our own bedroom.
I know. Oh my gosh, this is getting weird. So during that recording, we started to hear sirens outside, and we figured it was like ambulances, fire trucks, but there were a lot of them, and they went on for a while. And then we finally paused the recording just to go see what was happening. And we go out, and like everybody is kind of like at the window looking outside and saying, no, that's the tornado sirens. And I'm like, ooh. So, precarious church gear moment. And we've had a couple of those. Like, do you remember when we were going to go to Chicago, but there was an ice storm?
I do remember, because I thought, well, I'm going to die at this job I just started because I'm not going to, wuss out. But
and my wife said to me, I will lay down on the driveway in front of the truck so you can't leave.
That would have been a cold activity.
And I was like, come on. Like, there's ice for like 100 miles, and then it's fine after that. We'll go slow, and then we'll go fast.
100 miles.
So we waited an extra week and then went to Chicago.
Yep, and it was fine.
Do you remember that story of Charlie on the freeway at like...
I can't believe we haven't told this yet.
2 a.m.?
Yes, I'm taking Charlie back to the Nashville airport to fly him home to Texas, and he tells me like, man, that was such a long gear run. It was up till 5 a.m. And at one point, I think around 3 a.m., I'm stopped in standstill traffic at 3 a.m. on the interstate because a helicopter is landing on the interstate. We still don't know how that story concluded or who was. I
mean, there was obviously some sort of accident on the interstate, but I think wasn't he stuck in traffic for like 4 hours, or he was trying to find a hotel but couldn't?
He couldn't find a hotel because another weather event had happened and all the hotels were booked because everyone from the bottom of America had come up to like...
were displaced and had to live somewhere. That's amazing.
I told Charlie he should have jumped in the helicopter, but... Let's go back to the lightning.
I don't think he could fit all the gear in the helicopter was the problem. He's like, protect the gear.
Well, Toby, you've seen those, like Jurassic Park, where they lower the cow down into the cage. Like they could have just hooked a cord to the van and carried it here.
That would be, if we had footage of that, that'd be amazing.
I should just get my pilot's license and this gear runs will be easier.
You think you would fly a helicopter?
That's totally a joke.
Yeah. And so going back to the story of the tornado sirens... So we didn't actually get hit with any tornado, but man, was it windy. We got hit with something. It was windy for, 10 minutes. And then I feel like 10 minutes later, Dave shows up to the warehouse and he's like, oh, I got to pick up the box truck. And we're like, dude, did you just drive through a tornado? And I feel like he looked at us like, what are you talking about?
He's like, guys, I'm from California. We have forest fires. We have volcanoes. We have tsunamis. I'm fine. This is Tennessee.
Yeah, he's like, dude, I'm fine.
Tornado. It's the Tennessee tornado. It's fine.
So he gets the keys to the truck, takes the truck, and we're like, be careful out there. And he's like, yeah, no problem, guys. And what happens, Blake?
He gets struck by lightning. So
the church gear box truck literally takes a lightning strike.
I don't know if that's God telling us we're not being good, because that does feel, or spiritual warfare. Yeah. It's something.
And I gave him the award for most likely to be smited by God.
Yeah, I mean, that's
The chances of getting struck by lightning.
So are you telling me that Dave now should play the lottery?
Maybe, or I'm a little worried that you might actually win the lottery now because things happen at Church Gear that aren't supposed to happen, apparently.
Yeah, but lightning doesn't strike twice in the same spot. So, speaking as someone that I feel like has the amount of energy of a lightning bolt, the production director at Casas Church, Tyler Moss. Tyler, welcome to the show, man.
Oh, thanks for having me on, guys.
Tyler, have you ever been struck by lightning?
I have not. I have seen a saguaro, that is a large cactus native here to Tucson, Arizona, be struck by lightning. But
like in the act, you saw it happen?
Yes, I was driving down the freeway and saw, bam.
What was that like?
It was freaky, and I pulled over and kind of just sat there for 10 minutes contemplating what just happened.
Wow. Man, if I had... I've seen some crazy things in my life, but that's a moment I wish that I could have had on film to see that cactus like explode on a lightning strike.
Well, and did you then go eat some of the cactus? It had been cooked so well.
No, I think that would make you sick.
Probably give you some. Oh, really? Can you not eat cactus?
You can eat some fruit.
Have you ever heard of people eating cactus, Blake?
I've never heard of people eating lightning struck
Have
cactus.
you ever seen a cactus in real life?
There is. Ooh.
If you count the little tiny guys that they put at the plant store, then yes. Look,
there are some cactus called nopalitos that you can eat.
See, that sounds like no bolitos. That sounds like no eating.
Yeah.
All right, so here we go. Let's get these 5 truths and a lie out. I think we got a good shot because he only did 5. He didn't.
Yeah,
do
there's
6.
4 truths and a lie.
I listened to Rusty's and I was like, I did not do my homework well.
This is great. It increases our odds.
I'm not sure that any of us is smarter than Rusty Anderson. So at least, I mean, the dude speaks 5 dead languages.
I still don't know that I believe that.
I know.
Number 1, Scott Ragsdale and I were each other's first FaceTime call.
Do you remember, Blake? Do you remember your first FaceTime call?
I do. It was no, I'm just
Were
kidding.
you 8 years old?
No.
Because you're 12 now.
I mean, I didn't get an iPhone until I was in college, though.
I don't remember mine either, but it was not Scott Ragsdale. Although we've chatted with Scott Ragsdale over Zoom on the podcast. Okay.
Zoom is better than FaceTime. Number 2, I was an assistant recording engineer on Jimmy Eat World's Futures album.
Blake, who's Jimmy Eat World?
He's Jimmy, dude. And he's eating the world.
We'll come back to that.
I'd rather get struck by lightning than be eaten by Jimmy. Number 3, I grew up playing music with Linda Ronstadt and family.
Who's Linda Ronstadt?
What is it?
I'm just laughing because you don't know any of these names. It's cute. I think you'll know the next name.
I have actually spoken with Sir Paul McCartney.
Okay, please. Who is Paul McCartney?
That's Elton John's husband. I'm just kidding. He's one of the Beatles, right?
Okay. Thank you.
I know why you guys get struck by lightning now.
Yeah.
Number 5, I didn't know Elton John controlled lightning. Number 5, I've opened for Further Seems Forever and Zao, co-heading the same show. Huh. If he's open for them, that means he's played an instrument too. Do you know if he plays something?
I would assume. I mean, look at the guy. He just looks like
drummer.
He breathes. Well, he's got electric guitars hanging behind him.
Well, don't we? So do we, but in the company warehouse.
Tyler, are you in your office right now at church?
I am in my office right now.
So we assume you play guitar because there's guitars hanging on the wall.
Yes.
And what was your first love, music or production?
Or Scott Ragsdale?
That's a really hard question there. Probably music, and that is what got me into production. Okay,
Blake. So aside from the fact that you don't know who any of these people are, which is just a tragedy for, American education, I feel like the last 4 are all in a theme, and then number 1 is just a random, like Scott Ragsdale and I were each other's first FaceTime call.
The more random it is, though, the more I tend to think it's true. So I'm going to say he's not spoken with Sir Paul McCartney.
Dang it, I was going to go that way.
Suck it.
False, sir.
What?
Well, you
False,
can't.
Sir.
Oh, all right. Well, now we already know I messed up.
Sweet. We already know Blake's wrong.
Now Toby's only got 4 of possible.
I'm going to go with assistant engineer on Jimmy Eat World Future album.
Toby wins.
Yes!
I was present in the room.
Are you so tired of hearing that, Blake?
You know what? This is why I go to therapy. So you and Scott Ragsdale were each other's first FaceTime call, huh?
Yes. Yes, one of our mutual friends was in town, and he said, hey, let's try this FaceTime thing. Let's call Rags.
So it wasn't like a blind date with Rags. You already knew Rags.
It was my first time meeting him, actually.
Oh.
It's just super random.
Does he know that we refer to him as Rags? I didn't. Is that a cool nickname for him?
I think his license plate says Rags 65.
Oh my gosh.
He drives
It
a
does,
vintage car.
actually.
Oh, you're okay.
Yeah,
All
he
right,
told
then.
me about it when we went to his church.
Tell us about being an assistant recording engineer for Jimmy Eat World.
I was actually just in the room. So the guitar store I was working for at the time, Rainbow Guitars here in Tucson, the owner has one of the most amazing recording studios west of the Mississippi. So he has beautiful vintage 70 series Neves console.
Oh, golly.
Yeah, and this is essentially the living room of his house. So I got to go and hang out a couple evenings and be there. So
That's amazing.
but I was not credited because I was just
And Blake, have you does Jimmy Eat World, does that ring a bell with you?
You know, it makes me think of some like 90s time, and that's all I got.
As like early 2000s was probably at the peak. Like they still exist, but after this I'll play you their hit song and you'd be like, "Oh, of course, I've heard that song 10 million times."
Well, thank you. Because
Yes.
yes. Okay, what was his lie actually?
It was that he was an assistant recording engineer. He just showed up and hung out, but he was not an assistant engineer.
Wow. Okay.
I know. Talk to us about Paul McCartney.
so working at that
Sir
same
Paul McCartney.
Oh, sorry, sir.
working at that same guitar store. Paul actually lives here in Tucson,
What?
or used to.
Why?
Yeah,
I'm confused.
this is where he settled in the 70s.
Wow.
Raised most of his kids with Linda.
Toby, he ran out of money and he had to settle for Arizona.
No, I don't think he ever ran out of money.
No, it's hard to do when
Is he
you have
still alive?
$500 million. Yes, he's still alive.
Exactly.
So you're telling me if I would have won the lottery, I would have had as much money as Sir Paul McCartney?
No.
That's funny. Okay.
So
His money
you
keeps-
you bumped into him at the guitar store and you actually got to chat with him.
He actually called the guitar store because he had some tape he needed some playback on and wanted to use Harvey's studio.
Mm.
So the owner of Rainbow Guitars.
And do you guys FaceTime each other just like you and Rags now?
No, this was like pre-cell phone kind of days. And, I said, hey, Rainbow Guitars. And I hear, a very distinct voice on the other end. And I was like, oh, may I ask who's calling? And he got me off the phone really quickly after that. So,
Yeah.
Oh, really? So you had talked to him before?
yeah, I had not talked. That was my first time talking with him. And then he actually came into the store to see some vintage stuff.
So you met him?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Man.
Yeah.
That is cool.
I try not to do the Wayne's World We Are Not Worthy.
It was hard, wasn't it?
It was very hard.
Yeah.
So tell us, let's get back to, I guess, the reality of when we leave the land of the stars. Tell us about your current role at Casas Church. What's your team culture like? What's it like being in Arizona? Does all your equipment overheat because the sun is so bad?
That is actually a thing.
I had a feeling.
Yes. We actually had a drive-in communion during COVID, and we had to have laptops sitting on top of bags of ice.
What?
You said you had a
Keep the flow
drive-in
moving.
communion?
Yeah, during the whole lockdown thing.
Yeah.
That is so adorable to imagine, like being in a drive-through line to get communion.
Well,
Instead of burger and fries, it's a blood. And
it's not a drive-through; it's a drive-in.
No,
Like a lot of churches
drive-in.
did, like drive-in services.
yeah, okay, never mind. I was thinking drive-through. I'm just like, instead of burger and fries, it's Jesus's body and blood. I mean, that's hilarious. Anyways,
That
tell us
would-
about your church.
No, so Casas Church, we're up here in Oro Valley, just north of Tucson, and it's actually going to be our 60th anniversary next year, which is exciting.
Has Tucson even been around for 60 years?
Tucson has been around for several thousand years.
Oh,
Gracious.
Blake.
If you go back, way back.
I missed that in the book of Nehemiah.
I feel like our audience is watching you grow up before their very eyes. It's like that movie Boyhood. So you started at like age 6 and now you're at like age 8.
I love that you feel like there's been upward trajectory. I just feel like there's been a lot of wandering around. Let's stay. If we could ever get Tyler the chance to talk about his church, that would be great.
Yeah, so we're one of the larger churches here in Tucson. We've been at this location for about 20 years, and I came on staff right at the beginning of 2022, or 2020, not 2022. So that was
What
an
was
interesting
that
thing.
like?
Well, for one, we were not streaming.
So did you have to get that going, or was it like we're just not going to stream?
Oh yeah, I was like, okay, I'm calling what was called Living as One at the time, and now Resi. Called them up and said, you need to send me some gear. because thankfully we have a large enough room that we already had iMag and all that infrastructure in place, which is really nice. But also our internet was still super slow because we live, this campus was built out here when nothing else was around. So we actually had microwave tower internet when I first started. 50 megs down, 50 megs up. And it was terrible.
So you had to upgrade that immediately.
Yeah. So yeah, we got Lumen, part of CenturyLink, to pull out fiber and get us into the modern era.
So that's a huge challenge. Like, you had a challenge that a lot of church didn't even think about.
That's like a city infrastructure challenge.
Now, I know there are plenty of churches, a little bit outside of the city or way outside the city that had those same problems. But I mean, my church never even had to think about that. We had great whatever, T1 or...
Yeah, we had absolutely nothing because the city's grown back out around to us, which has been, interesting, getting all the infrastructure back upgraded again.
And so tell us more about that transition of, like, we're not streaming. Okay, step one, get internet. What was step 2 through 75?
Yeah, step 2 through 75 was like, hi, I'm the new guy, and now I'm telling everyone what to do because, as we all know, tech directors were the ones with all the answers right there at the beginning, or scrambling to find the answers. But most importantly, I probably told our staff to. I think I heard this from maybe Lee Fields, but to fail as fast as possible so we can figure out what's working.
Yeah, so that is good advice. And what was your team like at that point? And is it bigger, smaller, same now?
Team is about the same. I came into having 2 assistants that pre-existed my tenure here at Casas, and it was really interesting to get to know them and figure out, first of all, how they're doing church and production and everything, and then start and change things over, get their trust, earn trust at the same time as we're all scrambling. It was lots of fun.
Hang on a second. So you came in and then you're the boss now to 2 people that had already been there.
Yeah.
How long had they been there?
Well, I had an assistant, Taylor. He had been here for a couple of years. He actually grew up at the church, and he was primarily more lighting stuff. And he had been there for probably about 2 years. And the other assistant, Jeff, started literally the day before me.
That's funny.
And welcome to COVID.
Yep, exactly.
And what was the video system upgrade that needed to happen immediately? Since you guys weren't live streaming, was it staffing up? Was it more equipment?
Well, first of all, it was, we had a pretty good infrastructure. They're already doing a 5-camera shoot with 2 wireless cams just for iMag, which is
that's a lot.
Yeah. So didn't really have to upgrade too much there besides getting the Resi stuff. First couple of weeks we were pre-recording, then exporting and uploading to YouTube and Facebook just to try and get a service out there. But beyond that, it was pretty much identifying who on the volunteer team was in the circle or the bubble. So we moved cameras a lot closer. So there was a lot of moving around and running cables all over the auditorium.
So did you feel like, you and another guy just starting, another guy's been there for 2 years, COVID happens, was it like a pressure cooker to grow as a team? Or was it like did that turn into an amazing team afterwards?
Yeah,
or was
we
it like
bonded in the fire?
Yeah, or was it the most stressful time ever?
I thought I kind of like stressful situations.
Well, you're in a good job.
Yeah. Because, it's pretty simple to go through and be like, okay, let's just take things one step at a time. And, growing with my team at that time through that and getting them to like, oh, yeah, it's not the end of the world if ProPresenter doesn't look right.
And that is tough. I cannot imagine just starting out that way. So we see before you worked there, you've had some previous roles as a project manager. What's a major project that you've had to work on as a tech director at Casas Church, and how did your project manager skills translate over when you took that role?
Well, for one, keeping everything running, because It's a slightly older facility with a lot of older equipment. And we actually, one Sunday morning, our Midas consoles took a dive, and I was told we need to replace these ASAP. So,
like all of them or one of them, or
Did they dive into a pool? I didn't know you had those in Arizona.
yeah, I wish they did. But no, seriously, I love the Midas consoles, but when they fail spectacularly. So I called in a favor to one of my friends in Nashville, and they flew out a DSP frame and got it back up and running for the next week. And then we started our plan to upgrade our audio infrastructure and move forward with that and get all new toys. So.
Okay, so something, and Blake and I are not tech directors. This is why it's fun for us to learn new things about.
Toby, I've been a tech director for 5 years. Did you not know that? I mean, it's going badly, but
God help the church that you're at, Blake.
They're very nice.
So as we're talking about project management, you're talking about Midas boards going down. This seems so simple and obvious, but we realize you can't not have a Sunday happen. So it's like Sunday service ends. If you have a project to do, you've got 6 days to do it, and it has to be back up and running. And maybe you're like, no, there's also midweek service and there's also youth. And talk to us about that, crunch moment for those Midas boards of like, and when you transitioned out of the Midas boards, what did you guys go to?
So for that week, Sunday morning, it was trying to get something back up and running. So we got audio passing just in time but the monitor console had died. So the band wasn't able to perform or function because they need to be able to hear each other and themselves. So we actually played back a pre-recorded worship set that we luckily had, did a greatest hits, and then went right into teaching from there because that doesn't really need a lot of fold back and all that stuff. But
so you did not have live worship one Sunday.
Yeah, we did not have live worship
Got
one
it.
Sunday because
it did a lot of people lose their salvation.
Nope.
The world didn't end.
See, that's great. Sometimes
for the people in the room, they watched on the IMAX screens playback, and then the band and vocalists were on stage kind of leading everybody along doing karaoke worship. I'm sure some of our band members still have PTSD from that moment, but it actually went off all right.
I'll tell you what, too, as just a normal church member in the pews, that's the kind of stuff you remember. It's almost like, hey, like this, it jogs you out of your routine. It's more memorable. You might actually connect better in that moment because it's different. So that's cool. That's cool that you guys get to do that.
And Blake, I feel like one thing we're learning is, and I say this completely in jest, but you have worship, you have tech. One is required for Sunday morning, and one can be, karaoke.
I cannot believe. Oh, wait a minute. So worship, you're saying, is karaoke?
Correct. Like tech directors, absolutely essential. Worship, and I used to be a worship leader, so I'm trolling myself.
That's true. I'm glad you said that. Yeah, Toby
I'm just a pretty face, Blake.
Well, I'm not commenting on that. Tyler, do you ever feel like production is this world where every Sunday you're up in an airplane, they kick you out of the airplane, and you have to, because now you've got 6 days, like Toby says, to project manage a new service, and whatever went wrong, you've now been kicked out of the airplane and you got to fix it on the way down as you also build a parachute. Is that kind of like, how do you handle the grind of constantly problem solving in between services?
It definitely can become like a hamster wheel sort of experience of it's just Sunday to Sunday. We got to get through it. So my team in the creative department here at Casas, we've really worked on getting several weeks ahead and trying to be as prepared as possible for our volunteers to mitigate like the scramble.
Oh, you can okay. Maybe I just haven't been paying attention. I didn't know that you could get ahead. I've literally never heard of my best friend's a worship pastor. So I know the grind well. Like I've never heard of being able to get ahead of Sunday. So that's cool. So how long have y'all been trying to do that? How many Sundays are you ahead?
So we try and stay about 6 weeks planned out.
How do you do that?
I have an amazing team that does that, and I just make sure it gets loud.
Would you
don't ask me to be the organized one, but no, so we try and schedule everything out, and we work with our pastor team really directly to go ahead and okay, well, here's like the movement we want throughout the overarching series that we're currently in and how it reflects our church's mission, and then dig into that a little bit and plan songs that reflect that, so it doesn't have to be as perfectly tied to the message. That just happens.
So do you advise all churches to try to get a little bit ahead?
Oh, definitely. So we're not scrambling.
Okay, I want to shift gears a little bit because I see in your background something I'm very curious about. So I wanted to be a record producer, recording engineer when I was a teenager. And to me, if I wanted to pursue education, it was either Full Sail or it was the Conservatory of Recording Arts.
Or the School of Hard Knocks, which he graduated with a PhD.
So you spent some time at Conservatory. Tell us just a little bit about that program. Is it cool or not? Do you recommend it? What's that like?
It was a lot of fun. I haven't been up there. I graduated from that program probably 15 years ago. So in Blake years, I don't know how long ago that was.
Yeah, Blake, you're cat years. So
I don't know. I age, not very fast in the mind and very fast on the body.
You're 29, but your face is
I'm like
48.
I'm like a Benjamin.
Your brain is.
I'm like
9.
Benjamin Button, but I don't look like Brad Pitt, which sucks because at least he was handsome.
You look like Jonah Hill, dude.
Oh well, if only I was as funny.
Going more into that program, it was really valuable for me at the time. So growing up in the church and getting thrown in front of a Mackie, or no, the very first soundboard I was thrown up was a PV soundboard that had built-in reverb.
Built-in reverb. I miss those days.
Built-in spring reverb. So if you hit it too hard while you adjusting something, it would just crash.
You can make a thunder sound effect by hitting the soundboard.
How many Sundays were you working on a PV soundboard?
Oh gosh. Well, that was for the youth area. So
okay.
We did have a Mackie 24/4. At some point.
I got to tell you guys, the amount of times the tech would fail at youth in my youth is making a lot more sense, because all the stuff that was on the glitch in Sunday service that got kicked down to the youth room now makes sense why it never worked.
Yeah, the youth gets the hand-me-downs.
Oh, yeah. I think it makes you a better production person, though, because you have to make it work.
I was just about to say that must be, though, why the volunteers in youth are all the ones that I knew are literally production directors at churches now, because they knew how to work on the crap gear. So...
And is Conservatory strictly audio production?
Yeah, Conservatory is strictly audio production. They may have expanded a little bit more. I know they've added more in-depth live sound stuff. I've actually reached out to them and be like, hey, you can send interns down to learn, just because it's valuable, and we're pretty close to it up in Phoenix. We're about an hour away.
Mm-hmm.
But it's one of those programs that you get what you put into it back out. So, I saw kids there that, oh yeah, I want to come make beats and be a hip hop producer. And then they were really frustrated when they weren't taught how to make beats. But then there was kids that are like, oh, I'm going to record a band and get a band in here and do all the work and ask 1,000 questions. And at the end of it, they actually tried to hire me to start like an install, like audio,
like an integrator division?
Yeah, integrator division, because I was working for an integrator at the time while going to school up there. And I was like, no, I don't want to teach.
And then did you come to Nashville after that?
Yeah, so after that, after graduating from Conservatory, I actually moved back down to Tucson and was production director at Pantano Church on the opposite side of Tucson. And then moved back up to Phoenix to work for some integrators, and then eventually went to Nashville from there.
Should have told those kids if they want to make beats, they should go to the farm. So, come on, guys, that was great. That was a great joke.
Blake, I'm just still, my brain is trying to catch up to, you and your Benjamin Buttonness.
Gracious. Okay, Tyler, give us those in bullet points, because I feel like you've done a lot of roles and you've done them really fast. So you went from the Conservatory to?
To Pantano Church here on the east side of Tucson. I was production director there for 3 or 4 years. And then my lovely wife, who I met there at Pantano, we moved back up to Phoenix so she could go to med school.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
You married up, dude.
Are you a trophy husband? What, is your wife a doctor?
I was a stay-at-home dad for a little bit.
I tried that life, man. I married a girl who was supposed to turn into a nurse anesthetist, and then she became a nurse professor. But it's probably good that happened because I wouldn't have the body of a trophy husband. So, do you recommend recording Conservatory? Like, I know you say you get what you put into it, but
yeah, you definitely get what you put into it. But there's so many options now. It's really amazing.
Yeah, a lot of universities are doing really great programs now and trying to catch up with places like Conservatory and Full Sail.
Yeah, Conservatory is really recording focused. But if you want to do live production, there's great stuff like Belmont or Full Sail has stuff. Blackbird there in Nashville. No, I had a lot of fun at Conservatory, and I still talk with colleagues that are still in the business with them. So.
Well, it's good to have another one on endorsement. My sister actually works at Belmont, and she's joked, these kids that come here to be pop stars, straight A's does not make you a pop star.
Nope.
No, it does not.
So,
but it's a great place to network.
And for you moving to Nashville, was that an opportunity with a integrator, or was there some allure of Nashville? Because look, I moved to Nashville because there was some allure of it.
So you moved to Nashville to hang out with me,
obviously.
Oh, yeah. Of course. No, part of it was for working for Morris, which is no longer with us, but working for an integrator, actually equipping other churches, which I was really excited to do for that time. And so my wife could attend her residency at Vandy. So,
your wife keeps getting smarter.
What does your wife do?
She's an emergency room doctor.
Oh my gosh.
You are a trophy husband.
Tyler, well done. Your trophy is in the mail.
I thank her every day.
You should. I thank my wife every day too.
So I don't thank mine, but that's just because I'm an ungrateful husband. So tell us, like, when you lived in Nashville and Arizona, did you have a favorite? What's kind of the pros and cons for a church tech? Because those are very different cities. We don't put our production gear on ice in Nashville.
No, you don't have to put your production gear on ice unless you're, doing something out for CMA Fest, because that's like what?
Yes,
beginning of July downtown Nashville.
That's rough.
I'm not gonna lie, it does get
100%.
It gets ungodly hot here. The month changes between June. Well, no, it's really like July, August, September. One of those months is going to feel like the surface of the sun, and you don't know which one it'll be every year.
Yeah.
And Tyler, I was thinking we even employ some of these guys who will find Nashville as sort of this allure of I want to move to Nashville. I want to get into touring. I want to jump on a tour. What sort of advice as far as pros and cons would you say of church tech life in Arizona is this versus if you want to move to Nashville and do that touring thing, that's a whole different animal.
Oh yeah. That's touring, as somebody who's done it in both punk rock bands and semi-professionally putting out fires. It's, if it's 5 guys in a van, it can get pretty rough.
Yes,
honestly. Or it's become a lot more professional now since I was touring. But being more of a church tech gives you a lot more opportunity and stability. I've found. I actually have one of my assistants now is looking to become touring because that's what you do. You grow up and you move on from. You learn all you can at a church and then move on. And they're looking to actively go tour. And I'm like, well, you can try and stay around here and get a little bit more stability or look for another church. And that, will afford you to be able to put down roots or anything. But yeah, go join the circus for a couple of years and see if you like it.
Gracious. It seems like it's the same skill set to be a church tech or a touring guy, but it's more about the lifestyle and personality trait of what you want for yourself.
Yeah, definitely.
Is there some imploring questions you try to ask them to really get them to soak in if this is a good decision or not?
Yeah, it's just what are you wanting to get out of it? And are you ready to hustle? And you are going to have to move to a more expensive city. You can't get based out of somewhere small until you've actually made a name for yourself, if you will.
Got to outgrow the pond before you can jump lakes.
Yep.
Okay, so I like to surprise Blake with little games and usually pit him against the guest. And I figure since we're in football season and we're talking about, Nashville or Tennessee versus Arizona, let's play a little just, state of Tennessee versus state of Arizona.
I could give you almost all of the skill players on the Arizona offense.
So we're just
Makes you a
gonna
better sports ball fan than me.
Sports ball.
sports ball.
One of these days, Toby, I'm going to surprise you with a game.
You should.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm gonna crush it.
No, you're not. I'm going to rig it.
So we're just doing a state of Arizona versus state of Tennessee statistics. So Tyler, I would assume you will take the Arizona position, and Blake, you'll take Tennessee. But it's one or the
quick
other.
Question.
Yes.
Is this Arizona State or University of Arizona?
No, I'm talking like the literal state of Arizona.
Like, what state is it in? Is it in a good state?
There you
Is it in
go,
a
there you
bad
go.
state?
Okay, so you can vote either way, but we'll see which state wins based on who wins. So which state, Arizona or Tennessee, has a higher GDP, gross domestic product?
Oh, gosh. This is tough because Arizona is actually a sneaky, like, big economic engine.
I'm going to go with Arizona on this one.
I'm going to say Tennessee because I only know of Phoenix.
Man, I'm sorry, Tyler. Blake wins that one. Tennessee is higher by so Arizona's 420 million, Tennessee's 427.
I knew it had
These
to be
are
close.
These are close.
A lot of people are actually moving to Arizona right now.
Okay, which state has a lower unemployment rate?
Ooh, that's tough. I'm going to say Arizona.
Yeah, we have a bigger service economy out here.
Incorrect.
For both of us? Oh.
For both of us.
Tennessee has a lower unemployment rate,
Well, Tennessee-
3.4.
Tennessee has right to hire, right to fire, so I'm surprised.
Okay, here's an easy one, I think.
Arizona.
Which state has a more dense population for the geographic area?
Tennessee.
Phoenix is one of the largest cities. So I'm gonna go with
Shoot. Is it too late to change my answer? All right, what is it, Toby?
It's definitely Tennessee.
Boom
denser.
shakalaka.
You got a lot of
Forest,
desert
land
there.
mass. I'm
Tyler.
terrible. Yeah, no, it's spread out.
It's 2-1.
Okay, two more questions. This one, I don't know what it means, but it's in the statistics, and I think it's hilarious. Which one has a higher percentage of crude marriages? I don't know what a crude marriage is, but it says crude marriage rate.
I'm going to say Tennessee.
Ooh, it's a crude marriage.
Yeah.
I don't know either.
Scared to Google this.
There's also crude divorces. So I think what it means is like the base rate, but they use the word crude.
Is this like crude oil? I mean, good Lord.
Or is it like eloping of people just cohabitating for several years?
That actually probably is correct. I'm going to go with Tennessee.
But,
What do you got, Tyler?
I got to fight for my sit.
Yep.
My state.
Okay, Tennessee wins again. Tennessee
right.
has 8.1 or 8.6% crude marriage and Arizona 5.9. And I think that's got to just mean a generic marriage rate.
Whatever.
Okay, final question. This is for all the marbles.
Even though I'm ahead for the record.
Which state has a higher population?
I'm going to say Tennessee. I know Phoenix is huge, but Tennessee's got a lot of major cities.
What do you got, Tyler?
Oh man, but Nashville's nowhere as big. Like Phoenix would go all the way from Alabama to Kentucky, literally. So I'm gonna go with Phoenix or Arizona.
Tyler wins.
I hate this.
I didn't tell you, Blake, but that one was for 10 points.
Whatever.
So Arizona has a little over 7 million and Tennessee a little under 6.8 million.
Truly boggles my mind how so many people live in Arizona. My favorite podcast is in Arizona. It's the Fantasy Footballers. I've thought about literally flying to your state, Tyler, just to see one of their live episodes.
And I promise you, it's very hot in Arizona.
Well, it'll be even hotter when I get there. I got a lot of body heat. So Tyler, tell us, speaking of stuff that puts off heat, Midas Gear does that. You've sold us your Midas Gear, so we're guessing you've upgraded your setup.
Yes, we actually moved to Yamaha Rivage.
Okay.
Rivage.
I was going to say Digico or Yamaha. So
Yep. I'm a Yamaha fan.
how has that transition been for you?
It's really good. I went with Yamaha over Digico just for the workflow and ease of training with volunteers, because Digico is super flexible and I love a lot of the options you get with it. But if you don't really get somebody to think the way you think when you're mixing, it can be a little confusing and daunting to walk up to one of those desks.
Question then. So would Digico have been more fun for you as a tech, but as a tech director with other people, that's why you went with Yamaha, because it was easier to train your people on?
Yes.
That is such a look at a sacrificial leader, Toby. Just watch and learn. I mean, how he chose the less fun option for himself to better his people.
But it's also, I think the Yamaha sounds a little bit better with all the inbox stuff.
Oh, well, then that's a pretty good point.
Okay, so we a few of us at our church or at Church Gear went to
At our church.
at our Church Gear. We went and visited Church of the City in Franklin just yesterday. I know this episode will come out in a few weeks or when it comes out, but they were talking about, they did a shootout. They went and, I don't know where they did it, but they listened to Allen and Heath, Digico, and Yamaha Rivage. And they said, listen to Allen and Heath, listen to Digico. And then when they played it through the Rivage, they thought something was wrong. And they said, no, something's wrong. That's like something's wrong with the mix on the Allen and Heath and Digico because the Yamaha sounded so much better. And they were like, no, it's measured out. You're hearing the same thing. And they're like, that can't be true. So you just said it sounded better. Like, does it really sound that much better? I've never heard a shootout.
I've done a festival there at CMA Fest. When I worked for Morris, we would provide Rivage consoles for front of house and changeover stuff. So everybody was going through that desk or guests were mixing on that. And there's, you can make anything sound good, but I think it's a little bit easier, definitely, on a Yamaha.
Okay, so I feel like we need to troll one of our friends a little bit. So Adam Taylor did a similar thing where he was
just here in my house. So.
What? Adam,
yeah.
You didn't say hi on the podcast? So they at Central took out all their Midas and they went Digico. So do we need to troll Adam and just say, like, look, buddy,
you chose the selfish option.
Casas sounds better, but you have your fun toys.
Yeah, we could start a little beef war with Adam Taylor.
And so Adam used to be at Casas Church, right?
Yes. He actually grew up here.
No way.
Yep.
Oh, that's fun.
Okay, so who's the better tech director at Casas Church?
Toby, that's
it's
so
obviously you, Tyler.
Toby.
Well, at Casas Church, because he was here for a short period of time before Dylan took him up to Central. But
Dylan stealing everyone.
I will say, the more church techs I talk to, we get around a lot. Like, everybody ends up working with everyone at every place.
It's a small world.
You don't stay long at one spot because then you make friends, and then that friend's like, well, you should come work at my church. So
yeah. My wife tells me all the time, don't burn bridges.
Well,
because you're gonna just see that person in 2 more weeks at something else.
Well, not if you burned a bridge that they were on and they died. The people I've done that to have never come back. All right, Tyler. Speaking of bringing it back, let's get back to some intelligence with your tech takeaway. We love wrapping up episodes with this. And you seem like a smart guy. I judge people's intelligence by their beard length, and by doing that, I think you're probably a genius. So what would be your tech takeaway?
Don't be afraid to say, I don't know. Like, one of the most valuable skills I've learned as a tech director and also as an integrator is like, hey, I don't know right now, but I will find out. So being able to own that you don't have all the answers in the moment will actually give you more integrity and trust with your team and those you're working for.
Yeah, I've heard, what was it? Pursuit of Happiness, when didn't Will Smith say, like, I'm not the guy that's going to know everything, but I'm going to be the guy that's going to get you the answer. Like, I remember thinking, because I saw that as a younger kid, I was like, that's an interesting thought of a way to build trust, to be vulnerable and honest, and then deliver, rather than trying to flub your way through it, which may or may not be what I just typically always do. So that's interesting.
When I was a younger tech director, I got into a lot of, personnel issues and frustrations with my leadership over feeling the need that I had to have the answer every single time. And, that could come back and burn me in certain situations. So like, oh yeah, we'll get this done and it'll be perfect and awesome. And then we're like, oh crap, I have no idea what I'm doing.
Have you go, Toby?
Well, I was just thinking, like, the tech director position is almost the one position in the church where everybody looks to that person and is like, oh, you know the answer, right?
In the meetings, I can literally see it in my mind right now, like, every head will turn to them. Yep. So that's an intimidating thing.
Yeah, Tyler will know. Tyler figured out.
To say, I don't know yet.
Yeah, and that definitely still does happen. But then, it's really nice to be able and have the freedom on our team to be like, you know what? I don't, but this has somebody that does know that answer or will get me connected to somebody that has the answer. So.
And for the record, he held up his smartphone.
Yes, I did.
Look, that's our second brain, typically the best brain. So then do you typically, or do you have like the trust at this point of your pastoral staff where it's like, you don't even feel weird saying it anymore because like you've gone through the routine? Was that weird at first, like when you would say those things, or has it always just been understood like, oh, okay, yeah, he doesn't have to know in this moment. Like he'll figure it out. Like if someone has never said this before, like,
Yeah, the first time I actually was sitting in a meeting and I said, "Can you give me a day before I give you an answer?" They're like, "Why is that?" And I said, "Because I don't know right now."
you know, I will say I've joked a lot about how college doesn't matter, but I've now decided college doesn't tell you everything, which I'm sad it didn't tell me everything. But really what it does is it sets enough of a foundation to where you have enough working knowledge to figure out the stuff you don't know. And so, yeah, it makes total sense that you could say, yeah, I just don't know right now. Makes sense. Well, Tyler, what do you have to plug, man? How can people find you, reach out to you? Or if you're like, don't reach out to me, I don't want to deal with you. I deal with Arizona's heat. That's enough for me to deal with. That's fine to say as well.
Well, I'm pretty busy and I'm bad at Instagram, but I am on Instagram at Tyler Moss. You can reach out to me there, ask questions, add into my trade memes all the time. So
that's fun.
I think we need a little who wore it best as far as beard, because Tyler and Adam both have legit beards. And
that would actually be a really fun end of year poll to like get all of our guests who have beards and put them against each other, like a bracket, like a March Madness.
Sweet Pete's going to win, dude. There's no beating Sweet Pete.
I'll have it on record.
That beard is glorious.
I'll have it on record in our poll against each other. It got up to the 30%, 70% with me and him. So that might be because I posted on my personal Instagram and begged my friends to help me out.
Your beard was horrifying.
It's the stuff of nightmares.
Yes.
Oh, well, thanks, Tyler, for coming on, man. We really appreciate you putting up with our nonsense and giving us some wisdom for our tech community friends.
Okay, yeah, I hope I had anything good to say, but no, thank you guys so much for having me on.
Thanks for hanging out with us. We hope to see you back next week for more absurd stories, tech takeaways, and overall buffoonery here at the Church Gear Studios.
Blake, I feel sad for you in the fact that you really can't grow a good beard.
I recently tried and it was so itchy, I couldn't sleep. And so I had to, I shaved it. I shaved it in the middle of the night. My wife was like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "I can't sleep."
I've had a mustache twice in my life and it's been for less than 12 hours each because my wife's like, don't come home with that still on your face, basically.
Hang on a second. I'm actually looking at your face now. You had a mustache recently and now it's gone.
I know. You didn't even comment. You don't even know me.
Well, I'm too envious of your hair to notice. And you know what I'm also envious of?
The discount code that you give to our listeners that I never approved.
Yeah, well, I'm also envious that I never got to use it because I don't know how. If I bought something from Church Gear, it would be a pretty thing on my doorstep. I wouldn't know what to do with it.
You'd immediately return it because you're like, it doesn't work. And we're like, oh.
You know what's funny though? Boggs buys something. He works at Church Gear. He's like one of the coolest techs ever. And he buys something from Church Gear every 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's funny when we hire church techs because it's like if, we sent you to scoop ice cream.
Oh, yes. I just eat all the ice cream.
That's right.
Well, yes. So if you want to be like Boggs and get 11% off of your Church Gear purchase, use code PODCAST. This is our best code. There's literally no better code than this. I'll never let there be a better code. I want my podcast people to get the best stuff. So 11% off, even if it's $50,000, whatever. I don't know pricing on things.